If you're using the suggested Spotify playlist, press play now. Start at the top of the mat in Tadasana. Feet parallel under the hips, arms by the sides, palms front, and take a nice deep breath. We'll start with a half sun salutation. Inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. Bend the knees here if you need to, and don't worry if the hands don't reach the mat. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, straightening the legs, spine lifts halfway up. Exhale, fold again into Uttanasana. Inhale, reverse swan dive, sweeping the arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, let's fold into Uttanasana. We're going to stay here, so bend the knees as much as you need to. You can let the belly rest on the thighs. Hands can come to the blocks, your legs, or the mat. We're looking for a nice stretch through the hamstrings. If this is painful on your lower back, bend your knees more or bring your hands up a level so the lower back is not affected as much. Keep the lower belly pulling up and in to protect your low back. And breathe here. Take one more breath. Inhale, lift halfway up to Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, bring your hands down to the mat, squatting if needed, and step back with the left foot to find high lunge. Gently lower the knee for low lunge. If, however, the back knee is uncomfortable, tuck the toes to see if it feels any different. If not, you can cushion by folding your mat under the knee. The front leg is roughly 90 degrees. Hands can either rest on the mat, on blocks, or on your thigh. Target areas are the inner thighs, hip flexor, quadricep, and possibly the right hamstring. Make sure your weight is forward and not on the back kneecap. We'll stay here and breathe. One more breath. From here, we're going to shift back into half monkey. Bring your weight into the right knee. We want the hip stacked over the knee for another 90-degree angle. Straighten the front leg as best you can and flex the foot. Bring yourself upright. Hands can be on the waist or out to your sides if you're a little wobbly. Inhale, lengthen through the spine, and exhale, hinge forward from the hips. You want to stick the tail out behind you with a nice long spine. You only want to go as far forward as it takes to feel sensation in the back of the leg. Nothing too intense because we're going to stay here and breathe for a little bit. As the muscles start to open up and release, you can of course go a little deeper as you see fit. Be aware here not to go too deep too fast to avoid injury. If you get any pins, needles, tingling, or numbness, that's a signal that you're going too far. Take one more breath here. Bring your weight forward into low lunge again. Tuck the back toe, lift the back knee for high lunge. We'll move into Parsvottanasana from here. Walk the hands to your thigh, then hop the back foot forward. Ideally, we want about 3 feet or 1 meter of space between the heels, and the hips to stay level and pointing to the front of your mat. Front leg is parallel, back leg outwardly rotated to your natural rotation. Hands on the hips, inhale, lengthen through the waist. Exhale, hinge forward from the hips as we did in half monkey until you feel a stretch in the front hamstring. No rounding of the back here. Keep it straight. Hands can rest above or below the knee, on the blocks, or on the mat. Support the pose by engaging the belly. This belly lift I keep mentioning is called a bandha, or energy lock. There are 3, but for today let's focus on the Uddiyana bandha, residing in the navel area. Check out my blog post on the basics of bandhas if you'd like to learn more. Link is in the description. From here, move the hands to the inside of the front leg. turn to face the side edge of the mat for side lunge called Skandasana. Both legs outwardly rotate, bend the right knee. Left leg extends to your side as straight as you can manage, knees and toes pointing the same direction. Depending on your flexibility or mobility in the hips and the legs on this side, you'll either be able to get the sit bone close to the heel, or the sit bone won't come anywhere near the heel and your hips will be high in the air. It doesn't matter what this looks like. We're ultimately looking for a stretch through the inner thighs, and you may feel some hamstring stretch as well, so go in whatever position you can find the stretch. One more breath here. Straighten the right leg, walk the hands to the center of the mat, turn the legs to parallel for Prasarita, wide-legged forward fold. Inhale as you come up to standing. Both legs straight, heels in line with one another, hands on your waist. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold forward, hinging from the hips. If the backs of your legs or low back are super tight, you're not going to go very far, and that's fine. We're looking for sensation through the backs of the legs and maybe in the glutes. Try to avoid the lower back. If you feel intensity there, bend the knees and keep the Uddiyana Bandha, or belly, lifted up. Oh yes, and also, make sure you're still breathing. Start to walk your hands toward the right foot. Turn the legs to come into high lunge and step back into plank. Move through a vinyasa. Knees lower to the mat, then in one piece lower the torso. Release the toes. Inhale, lift the head and shoulders for cobra. Exhale, lower down to the mat. Inhale, press through tabletop, hands and knees. Exhale to either child's pose or downward facing dog. If you choose downward facing dog, it's okay to bend the knees here, and it doesn't matter if the heels are touching the mat. The goal is to create a lengthened spine. Take one more breath. Let's find our way into low lunge with the left foot in front. Start in tabletop. Swing the left leg forward either through the center or around the outside, and shift your weight into that front foot. The back toes can be tucked or not. Once you're situated, bring your hands to the mat, to the blocks, or to your thigh and settle into the stretch. Breathe into those hips. One more big breath. Bring your hands down to the blocks or the mat. Start to shift your weight back into the right knee for half monkey. Straighten the front leg and flex the foot. Bring yourself up to vertical and make sure the hips are squared. Inhale, lift through the waistline. Exhale, fold forward, hinging at the hips. Hands can rest where they need to. Whatever organization of the hands keeps you balanced and gives you the healthiest stretch through the leg. Make sure you've got an energized Uddiyana Bandha and keep the belly engaged. One more breath. Slowly start to shift your weight forward into low lunge. Tuck the back toe, lift the back knee for high lunge. Let's move into Parsvottanasana from here. Walk the hands to your thigh and then hop the back foot forward so there's about 3 feet or 1 meter of space between the heels. Hands on the hips, inhale, lengthen the waist. Exhale, hinge forward from the hips until you feel that stretch in the hamstring. No rounding of the back here. Keep it straight. Hands can rest on your thigh, your shin, on blocks, or the mat. From here, bend the front knee, move the hands to the inside of that leg. Turn to face the side edge of the mat for side lunge, Skandasana. Both legs outwardly rotate. Bend the left leg, right leg extends to your side, knees and toes facing the same direction. We're looking for the same target area of the inner thighs, hips, and possibly hamstrings. Now, this side will most likely be different than the first, so don't worry if it doesn't look the same. Do what's best for this side. One more breath here. Now straighten the right leg, walk the hands to the center of the mat, turn both legs to parallel for Prasrita, wide-legged forward fold. Inhale as you come up to standing. Feet parallel just wider than the hips, heels in line with one another. Hands on your waist. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold, hinge from the hips. Hands can stay on the waist, can come to your thighs, the blocks, or the mat, depending on your flexibility. If your wrists are unhappy, you can make fists like I am here so there's no flexion in the joint. One more breath. Start to walk your hands toward the left foot. Turn into high lunge and step back to plank. Move through a vinyasa. Knees lower, torso lowers to the mat, release the toes. Inhale, lift the head and shoulders for cobra. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, press through tabletop. Exhale either to child's pose or downward facing dog. If you're in downward facing dog, lower the knees and take child's pose for a couple breaths. Lift the head and move into a seated position, legs extended out in front. If your legs are tight, you can use props under your sit bones to create space for the legs to lengthen, or you can prop under the knees for support. Once you're set up, inhale, lengthen the waistline. Exhale, hinge forward over the legs, keeping the belly lifted. Walk the hands down the legs as far as you can. Alternatively, if you have a yoga strap or similar item, you can use it around the feet and hold on to the ends to extend the arms. Just make sure those shoulders stay rooted in their socket. If you can reach the feet, be mindful it's not affecting the low back too much. Remember, we're targeting the backs of the legs. Release the hands, come back to vertical. Move any props to the side but in arm's reach. And roll down onto your back. Move into floating bound angle pose from here. Hold on to the thighs, shin bones, ankles, feet, or toes. Let the bottoms of the feet touch or come close to touching, and the heels sink down toward the sit bones. If your head or pelvis are lifted off the mat, bring props underneath them for support. Take a nice deep breath and let everything relax. The only energy needed is in the hands to hold the legs. Now, let the legs move down to the mat for reclined bound angle pose. Keep them in butterfly shape, feet rest on the mat. The hands can come to the floor by your sides, palms up. Finally, extend the legs for Shavasana. You can help the legs with your hands if needed. If you're using the suggested Spotify playlist and it's within reach, I recommend turning it off now if it's still playing. Let the legs fall to their natural rotation, arms by your sides, palms up, no higher than the shoulders. If it's chilly where you are, bring a blanket over you to stay warm. Let the eyes close and take rest in stillness. Shavasana is here for you to recover and absorb all the benefits of your yoga practice. It allows your nervous system to relax, your heart rate and your breath pattern to come back to their normal rhythms. It allows time for awareness of the mind and body. If the mind continues to swirl with a bazillion thoughts, it's okay. That's quite normal. Try focusing on your breath instead. You can count each breath any way it makes sense to you. When you lose count, start from 1 again. Start to deepen your breath. Find energy in your fingers, toes, wrists, ankles, hands, and feet. Extend the arms overhead by your ears for a big full body stretch. Hug the knees into your chest and gently rock from side to side. Roll onto your right side, resting in fetal position, right arm under your head as a pillow. Gently press yourself up into a seated position. Eyes remain closed. Hands can either press together at your heart center or one hand on your heart and one on your belly. Take a few moments here to check in with how you feel after this practice. Hopefully the legs are feeling a little less stiff. So how do you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually? Take a moment for some gratitude. What are you grateful for in this moment and why? Thank you so much for practicing with me. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Have more time? Check out one of these beautiful practices over here, and there's more suggestions in the description below. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.